Hi students, today we will learn about physiological anatomy of the spinal cord. In this we will see about the gross anatomy, which includes the spinal cord level, that is it starts from the upper border of the C1 to the lower border of the L1 and it ends in the conus medullaris and phylum terminale. And it has two enlargements, one in the cervical region, that is called cervical enlargement, and one in the lumbar region, it is called lumbar enlargement. And it has anterior median fissure and posteriorly it has posterior median sulcus, and it is covered by three meninges from the top to bottom, that is from outer to inner side. Dura mater, arachnoid mater and pia mater covers the spinal cord. So you can see this, it ends in the conus medullaris. Okay, and it has two enlargements, cervical enlargement and lumbar enlargement. This is phylum terminale. So you can see this phylum terminale. So from where to where is the cervical enlargement? It is from C5 to T1 position. So it corresponds to the arms supply to the arms. So it is enlarged there from C5 to T1. It is called cervical enlargement. And whereas if you are coming to lumbar enlargement, it is from L2 to S3. So this expansion corresponds to the supply to the legs. So the spinal cord is enlarged there. It is called lumbar enlargement. If you see the internal structure of the spinal cord, so you see this, it is having anteriorly ventral median fissure and posteriorly it has dorsal median sulcus, and it has white matter and grey matter. You can see this H-shaped grey matter, and again this grey matter is divided into ventral horn, lateral horn and dorsal horn. And this grey matter is attached to ventral nerve roots and dorsal nerve roots. So dorsal nerve roots carries sensory information and ventral nerve roots carries motor information. So you can see these divisions of the spinal gray matter into laminae. These are divided into 10 laminae. These are called rexed laminae. This is based on the scientist name Rex. So he divided the spinal gray matter into 10 divisions. So from dorsal to ventral side, you can see lamina 1, lamina 2, lamina 3, lamina 4, lamina 5, lamina 6, lamina 7, lamina 8, lamina 9, and at the central position you have lamina 10. Okay. So how he has divided? It is based on the cells which are present in the spinal gray matter. So if you can see this, the layer 1, that is lamina 1, consists of nucleus posterior marginalis, or it is also called marginal zone. Then comes substantia gelatinosa in lamina 3. Then comes nucleus proprius of posterior horn. Okay. Then nucleus dorsalis or Clark's column. It extends from T1 to L3. Then lateral basal nucleus. Then spinal reticular zone. Then intermediolateral cell columns, that is sympathetic preganglionic neurons, that extends from T1 to L2. Then intermedial cell column, that is parasympathetic preganglionic neurons, which extends from S2 to S4 segments. Then motor neurons of the limbs. Okay, so it is comprising flexus motor neurons, and then it is having extensors motor neurons, and here in the distal part of the limb it is supplying for the distal part of the limb, and here it is supplying from the to the proximal part of the limb, and motor neurons of the trunk and neck arises from here. So these are the rexal laminae. Then coming to white matter of the spinal cord, it is divided by H-shaped gray matter. How it is divided? Into the ventral white commissure and posterior median septum, and it has lateral funiculus, anterior funiculus, posterior funiculus. So H-shaped gray matter divides the white matter into anterior funiculus, lateral funiculus, and posterior funiculus. Anteriorly, this white matter is connected with ventral white commissure. Okay. Then coming to spinal segments. So in the cervical region, you have 8 spinal segments, and in the thoracic region, you have 12 spinal segments, and in the lumbar region, you have 5 spinal segments, and in the sacral region also you have 5 spinal segments. Okay. So from where spinal nerves will be arising. So if you see what is spinal nerve, it is a paired peripheral nerve. It arises from the spinal cord. Total there are 31 pairs, that is 8 cervical, 12 thoracic, 5 lumbar, 5 sacral and 1 coccygeal. So total you have 31 pairs of spinal nerves. Near the spinal cord, each spinal nerve branches into two roots, dorsal and ventral root. So this spinal nerve is a mixed nerve. It carries sensory fibers and motor fibers. So you see this. This is the posterior root which carries sensory information, and this is the anterior root which carries the motor information. And this is the spinal nerve which is a mixed nerve. That is, it is having sensory and motor fibers. So this is covered by ligamentum denticulatum. If you remove this ligamentum denticulatum, you can see clearly these spinal nerves. Ligamentum denticulatum is nothing but it is a triangular shaped extension of the spinal pia mater. It extends from sideways from the spinal cord. So totally there are 21 pairs of extensions from the foramen magnum to L1. Okay. So this is the ligamentum denticulatum. If you remove this ligamentum denticulatum, then you can see the spinal nerve and its roots. See this? This is the dorsal ramus and it is the dorsal root. It carries the sensory information. This is the ventral ramus and it is the ventral root. It carries the motor information. The spinal nerve is a mixed nerve. That means it has both sensory nerves and motor nerves. So these spinal nerves will supply each one to specific part of the body. Okay. So if you take C1, that is first spinal nerve. So it supplies to the head, pituitary gland, scalp, brain, okay, ear and sympathetic nervous system. And if you see the C2, it supplies the eyes, optic nerve, and if you go through all these things, it will carry information from the specific part of the body. Then coming to spinal cord development. It is formed from the neural plate and it contains three layers. It is a ventricular layer, mantle layer and marginal layer. The ventricular layer lines the central canal. The mantle layer, it contains the neuronal bodies and forms the gray matter. The marginal layer contains the axons and forms the white matter. So, three layers from the inner side to outer side: ventricular layer, mantle layer, and marginal layer. So, you see this ventricular layer eventually converts into ependymal layer. Then it is the mantle layer and it is the marginal layer. So, finally, this is the spinal cord cross section. So, it forms the H-shaped or butterfly shaped gray matter and white matter. This is the development of the spinal cord. The next video will be on functions of the spinal cord.